Good evening and welcome to the shop. For tonight's project, I just received a wonderful 140-pound Swage Block from Holland Anvil. But like almost all tools in the smithy, it needs to be properly dressed before it can be effectively used. Doesn't matter whether it's a hammer, an anvil, a pair of pliers, not usually tongs, but sometimes even those too. If it touches the work, especially when it's hot, the tool needs to be conditioned so as not to leave burrs, cold shots, or other unwanted damage to the finished product. Or in the case of some of those corners, unwanted damage to us. For a surprisingly large amount of that conditioning, we use plain, ordinary files. There are other tools that will do the work: angle grinders, die grinders. There are even specialized pneumatic chamfering tools. But on a project like this, with so many interior surfaces, powered tools can easily bite off too much. Hand tools are safer, even though they wear us out. The purpose of any swage is to provide a hollow shape for the workpiece to be formed against. Now, swages are probably most familiar to you as top and bottom tools used on the anvil, usually for making round rod. Or you may know swage blocks for being surrounded by half-round or V-shaped cutouts for making dimensional forgings. And I have one of those, but it's a much smaller tool. A swage block with holes sized for different sizes of bar stock, often called a German pattern swage block, is almost always used to hold the parent stock at its current size and upsetting the work area against the face. This one from Holland Anvil has 4 sizes for rectangular stock, 5 for rectangular, 5 for round stock, and another 4 for oval-shaped stock. Now, I haven't run into the oval-shaped stock myself, but I would imagine that that's for use in decorative ironwork. I don't expect to get much use out of those myself, but out of all of the other sizes, yeah, I wind up working with those a lot. Since a German pattern swage block is almost always used by hammering or upsetting work against the face, the block has to be flat, like a table. And in order for it to work like that, you either have to just set it on top of your anvil, if you have an anvil large enough, or you need a dedicated stand to make the swage block into its own table. And that's what we're doing now. Now, when you're making a stand for a swage block, the most important thing is to build it strongly enough that it can stand up to the abuse of upsetting heavy stock against the face with a sledgehammer. In many ways, a swage block will see the same kind of use as a striking anvil, so it needs to be similarly built out of heavy materials. But right after that, you need to make sure you aren't obstructing the holes, because that will limit the size of the work you can do. So I cut down one side of the 3-inch angle iron to about 1.25 inches, because that's about the amount of material left around the outside holes. As you probably know, the price of steel has gone up dramatically in the past few years. That makes the use of recycled materials very important for almost all blacksmiths these days. Not necessarily for any finished work you might sell, although even there it has a role, but for all of our tools, stands, jigs, patterns, even prototypes, the recycling bin and the scrapyard are our best friends right now. As I got to the end of this project, I encountered a problem blacksmiths have been dealing with for centuries: non-standard sizing. The holes in my swage block are set for US standard bar stock sizes, but the hardy holes in all of my anvils are significantly oversized. What to do? Do I file out the swage blocks to the sizes I will actually be using? Do I mount spacers inside my hardy holes? Well, no. Although both of those might be period solutions, the appropriate solution in this case is to use parent stock of the next largest size, and then use the swage block like normal to forge the hardy tool. Then, once the swage block's job is done, forge or grind down the stem. In my case, I'll probably make a spacer for my hydraulic press, but there's no reason not to forge down to 90% by hand and finish the tool on the grinder or with files. And there we are, all done. It looks a little wobbly, but honestly that's because it's sitting next to a floor drain. It's not the stand's fault. I'm very happy with it. It's very heavily built and should stand up to some hard forging, which you will no doubt see in a future video. But that's all for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.